Welcome to the Monday night edition of the People Show with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas. My co-host Charles is still out. He may be coming on tonight, but I want to welcome everybody here who is joining us on this Monday night edition of the People Show. We have a full spectrum of things to talk about tonight. Of course, you know that we are on the eve of Election Day, which is the primary and in Illinois. And of course, the primary election in Illinois is that really is our election, our general election, because typically whatever happens in the primary is really what's going to happen in the general election for us locally. So in most of our local races, we are largely in a dominant Democratic state. So largely what happens in the primary is going to really determine what happens in November. And one of the other things that is concerning is there are so many unopposed seats. I think that there should be at least one other competing candidate in every race. I think that every race there should be a choice. Every race should not just be an automatic. I think that people. So we've got to we somehow we've got to make that change, and that's going to have to come from the public, right? We are the ones that are going to have to make that happen. So, which means that we have to get more people involved in elections. But anyway, so the primaries take place tomorrow. Of course, early voting ended today. So if you did not get your early vote in, if you did not do a mail by ballot, or you did not go in and vote early, you're going to have to vote at your precinct place tomorrow. And if you are not 100% sure of where your precinct place is, go to the Chicago Board of Elections, and the Chicago Board of Elections will tell you. You can put your information in, and it will tell you where your polling places are and all of those representative offices for your particular area. Right. So it's really important that that you do that. Now, if you live outside of Chicago, you can go on to the Cook County Board of Elections, and you can get your information as to where it is that you preside. If you are in the county, if you are in a different county, you will be able to go to the Illinois State Board of Elections, and you could get that information. So that information is available to all of us for to make sure that you know where your polling place is. All right, a lot of things going on, and I am supposed to have State Representative Mary Flowers on. She's going to try to come on, but we want to talk about what's going on in her race, and one of the things that are going on in that race is Mary Flowers is being challenged, but she is being challenged. And it is not that I have an opposition to her being challenged, but it is the manner and how that came about. You have Chris Welch, who is the Speaker of the House. You have Derek Curtis, who is the alderman of the 18th Ward, and you have Willie Preston, who is a state senator, one first-term state senator. And you have all this effort where they've raised over $1.2 million that we have been able to determine. It could be more than that because we haven't seen the latest D2s, but $1.2 million they raised, and that they're spending on a campaign for a person that we largely don't know anything about. He doesn't do interviews. We haven't seen him do any interviews with any reporters. They have some still photos of him up, so we don't know anything about it. what this is, we're trying to ascertain why it is that Chris Welch, Derek Curtis, and Willie Preston, who are three people. Now, I've had conversations with Willie Preston. I have not had conversations with Derek Curtis. I've not had a conversation with Chris Welch, but I've had conversations with Willie Preston because I spoke at an event where I expressed my opposition to um, the motive that was behind what they were doing. And the motive behind what they were doing, just on its face, looks very bad. And I don't know of any time that we have spent, or anybody that has spent, not we, but anybody have spent $1 million in a state representative race or state senator race, and particularly in our community. I just don't know that. Maybe that has happened. Maybe somebody can let me know, that I don't know of any time that has happened. And I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I just don't, recall that happening. And most of the people that I've spoken to that are pretty experienced in campaigning have said the same. So, but I want to play a clip. That kind of sets this up. And it's a clip of the speaker that is speaking highly of Mary Flowers in 2021. This is during the time where he wanted to become the speaker, and Michael Madigan was a fairly supporter of Mary Flowers, but Michael Madigan knew how to sort of engineer his way around people that may appear to have been in opposition on some things, and certainly he was not beyond doing that. I think that now that I think about it, maybe it was Ken Duncan that they spent a lot of money on. I don't remember how much they spent in that race to oust Ken Duncan. So, but I think I want to compare. I want to find out what it is. But here it is that they've raised $1.2 million to put somebody else in place. This person running against Michael Crawford. He's an educator. He does not have a long track record of community involvement. Don't know of many. If you look at his bio, he hasn't had an extensive background in any type of volunteer work that he has done in the community, whether it been on organizations or even politically. So nobody knows who he is, and he won't do interviews, but he's being propped up and he was picked, I guess, by Chris Welch and supported by Chris Welch, Derek Curtis, and Willie Preston. But the money is coming from these unions, and they're putting in the maximum of $68,500 into this campaign. So it's the motive that I'm questioning in what they are doing. And I think it stinks. I think it looks really bad that here you have three black men being propped up by these largely white run unions and largely white populated unions that is attacking this black woman. Actually, two. It's Mary Flowers, who is noted. She's been there almost 40 years, and Sonia Harper. So they're going after these two people, but the emphasis is really being placed on Mary Flowers. So, and people that I trust to get information from called me about this, and we looked into it. And I went to an event to support what they call Women for Flowers event, I think about 2 weeks ago. And I was really going there just to be in support of it, but I was asked to give a few words, and I expressed my concerns about what was going on. Um, you know, I think that we have to understand that we have our differences. We have our differences, and we're going to have our differences, and it's okay for us to have our differences. But the fact that we are not, um, or that we're allowing ourselves to be used by this old tactic that has been done all the way back during slavery, and I liken this to um, back in Virginia when they had a law in place. It was called meritorious manumissioners. It is where enslaved people could earn their freedom from slavery if they were able to turn in another slave that was threatening to escape bondage or enslavement, or they would notice the slave master that their property might be at risk by another enslaved person. That person would earn their freedom. This is what this is like to me. This is what this feels like and looks like. So on its face, it's not good. And I hope that we get to the substance of it. And I hope that we have a conversation with Mary Flowers. I certainly hope that she's able to um, withstand this because, number one, we're not going to have in Michael Crawford a good representative for the 31st district, certainly for the Black community. And this is going to have a stench on it, and certainly there's not going to be any trust there, and certainly there's no trust, or there's a lack of trust with Chris Welch and Derek Curtis, who is probably one of the most incompetent people that's in city council. And I'm really sorry that we didn't support the person who was running against him in the last election, so that we could have somebody with a little bit more intelligence in that office. Hopefully next time around that we could support a strong candidate, or even that person runs again, that we can get behind them and get somebody brighter in that office. So just on its face, the motive behind this is not these people. These people were picked and asked to become a part of this, but they're being used in a sense by or similar to slave masters. So you have these largely white controlled unions that are pouring in thousands and thousands of dollars each, $68,500 each union, into this campaign that Chris Welch is launching this attack against State Representative Mary Flowers. On that face, I hope that the people of that district go out and support Mary Flowers and neutralizes all of this attack. And then we need to deal with it. We need to deal with it as a community. We certainly need to deal with it as an electorate. But what was the change? What was the change that from what you're about to watch here? Watch this clip.
As Speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives, I am honored to congratulate our Deputy Majority Leader, Representative Mary Flowers, for the National Distinguished Advocacy Award from the American Cancer Society Action Network. Leader Flowers is the quintessential elected representative. She is well convicted in her values. She practices determination, and she has a kind heart. Most importantly, she knows how marginalized communities can be better served by government. Those are the qualities Leader Flowers brings with her into every issue and every debate. This is particularly the case when it comes to access to health care. During her more than 30 years in the General Assembly, Leader Flowers has advanced efforts to improve disadvantaged communities' access to health care. Because of her help, Illinois became the first state to pass comprehensive biomarker testing, which will help residents receive access to the proper cancer treatment at the right time. Marginalized communities, including communities of color and people of less privileged socioeconomics, are less likely to receive biomarker testing. People in rural communities and those receiving care in non-academic medical centers are less likely to benefit from biomarker testing. But because of Leader Flowers, these communities will have greater access. This is in addition to other initiatives, including empowering patients to predict better and plan their health needs. Those diagnosed with cancer need every inch of help we can give, and we owe it to ourselves as a society to beat the disease. Everyone has a role to play, and that's what Leader Flowers is fighting for. I am proud to call Leader Flowers a diligent advocate, a serious leader, a fine representative, and my friend. Congratulations, Mary. May God bless the American Cancer Society and all of our cancer patients who can have a little more hope as science and public health continue to advance.
So what happened between then and 2021 and now? That's the real question. He called her a fine representative. He called her a fine leader, and he called her his friend. It has been said that in politics, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interest. I'm not sure that I subscribe to that philosophy. Certainly, permanent interest is important. And I'm certainly, there are few people, very few people that I respect in terms of, look, I respect people, but in terms of, people in many political offices, um, I have little regard for their their service in offices as it relates to delivering for our community. But respect for the person, I have not respect for a lot of the inadequacies that we see happening in the representatives, with as many representatives as we have in government here locally in Chicago and Cook County and the state of Illinois. There's too much individualism going on in our communities. We cannot afford it. It is a toxic cancer, and that includes in political positions, which means, or it suggests that they may be in the position, but they don't have the autonomy of the power, that somebody else is doing the directing. Because many of the policies that they support are antithetical to progress within the Black community. And if we look at what has happened in the Black community over the last 3 decades, we don't have a lot to be proud of in terms of progress. In fact, if we look at the scales from education to economics, we have lost, we've regressed. We've gained people in positions of power, but we have lost resources. How does that happen? How do you explain it? You can only explain it by one thing, that these are people who are in positions of power that represent agendas that are not beneficial to our communities. And maybe they don't understand their power. Maybe they don't understand that they must caucus together. I hear the term caucus, Black caucus. We don't have a real living Black caucus. I akin it to a carcass. Because if they do get together, what do they get together for? What do they get together to strategize for or to plan for? Not sure. So this narrative or this effort that has been um, launched against Mary Flowers, I think is problematic. But it's problematic, but it's also emblematic of the problems that exist within our community. And we have to clean it up if we are going to make progress for our communities. If our communities are going to grow, if our communities are going to thrive, we have got to clean up our act. We are too disconnected. We are too splintered, going in too many different directions, and we can't afford it. We cannot afford individualism. That is not a recipe for a successful, thriving Black community. It is real clear. We need to really look at the receipts and look at the tape to see where we are as a community. And we are not. We have not made progress. I'm talking about in Chicago, in Cook County. We have not made progress. There's some individual progress. There may be some individual progress, but we as a whole have not made significant progress. That's the reality. That's where we are. And we've got to own up to that. All right. So hopefully, we'll get a chance if Mary Flowers. It's a campaign, right? So she certainly may be moving around on the campaign. So hopefully, she may be able to stop in and join us and share something with us, some more with us that we can understand why this is. But again, I think we should fight back against this, resist against this, support Mary Flowers, and then we need to look into what's really going on and see if we can't really bring some resolve into this, because our communities are at risk, and we can't not afford to have people in office where the resources are and where we need the resources to come from that are being manipulated by other outside interferences for their own benefits, and our communities get passed by. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are coming out of the great pieces of legislations that has come out of this administration on the federal level that's coming to this state. But now we have to make sure that those billions of dollars don't pass by our communities, that those billions of dollars attract, invest, so that we could have long-term growth and opportunities in our communities, improve in all of the negative areas that we have, from education to housing to employment. We to sustain our businesses. The people who are opening small businesses here, you have to have a workforce that can buy their goods and services. It all works in tandem. It all works together. So we've got to do that. We've got to do that part. All right. The other thing is there are some key races. There are some very key races that I have been talking about. One is the Board of Review, and another one that has come to our attention based on what the Illinois State Supreme Court did. And I have called for us to do a protest vote against the sitting Illinois State Supreme Court justice that's up for election. Remember, Ed Burke had been convicted of 13 felony counts, tried, convicted on 13 felony counts. So he is a criminal. He is a convicted felon. He has a law license. And if you have a law license and you are convicted of a felon, then your law license is, you become disbarred. The ARDC, which is the Attorney Registration Disciplinary Commission, places a petition before the Illinois State Supreme Court to have you disbarred. The ARDC filed a petition at the Supreme Court, the Illinois State Supreme Court, and on February the 2nd, the story just broke. It broke last Monday. 4 of the Illinois State Supreme Court justices recused themselves so that they wouldn't have to act on the petition that was brought forth by the ARDC to suspend the license of Ed Burke, to suspend him from practicing while he goes through his appeal or before he is sentenced, to suspend his license. Our last line of defense in a act of recusing for themselves the majority number of voters so that there is no quorum to be able to take up the petition, because you have to have a quorum, which means you have to have the majority number of justices to be able to hear arguments on a case or to take up, in this case, the petition that was placed before them. So in effect, the Supreme Court basically said, by their actions, Ed Burke, we are covering for you. We are going to protect your license, and we're going to allow for you to continue to practice law as a convicted felon. So a man who was convicted of bribery, racketeering, and attempted extortion is now allowed legally to practice before a court, to practice law in the state of Illinois, because the Supreme Court abdicated its duty to the people of Illinois. So, and there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. So what I said is that what we should do is vote for the other guy. Vote for Jesse Reyes. Whether you intended to or not, vote for Jesse Reyes and send a message to the Illinois State Supreme Court and not send Joy V. Cunningham, who was handpicked by Ann Burke, the wife of the criminal convicted Ed Burke, who was the Chief Justice for 3 years at the Illinois State Supreme Court, who stepped down in 22. So I suggest that we go to the polls and vote for the other person. And I would hope that any of you who are listening to this program, who has listened through the programs throughout earlier this week, that you make it go viral, reach all of your friends, your family, and tell them as a protest vote to send Joy V. Cunningham home. Do not support Joy V. Cunningham. What they did at the Illinois State Supreme Court is reprehensible. To say that a convicted felon, Ed Burke, can continue to practice law. There's no excuse for it. There's no conflict. That's the conflict. The conflict is that they abdicated their responsibility. There's no conflict with somebody who commits a crime that you, as at the highest court in the state, run from your responsibility to uphold and to defend the Constitution and to defend the people of Illinois. We are still at risk because there's a convicted felon who was tried by a jury of his peers and found guilty on 13 of the 14 counts. And we, the people, are at risk because this felon is still able to practice what he was doing legally. He's able to continue to practice. It's reprehensible. So that is the protest vote that I've asked for all of us to send a message to the Illinois State Supreme Court. There's not a whole lot we can do, but that will send a message. There's nothing we can do. We can't impeach them. They're certainly not going to do it at the General Assembly. So that's, a non-issue, not even worth mentioning. But because there's one election that has taken place here in Cook County, we have the opportunity to send a real message to them and not send Joy V. Cunningham back to the Illinois State Supreme Court. Because what happens in the primary, that's it. That's the election. So I hope that message got out there, and I hope that somehow it went viral and that people are just as angry about it as I am and willing to go and act on it and make a statement and send a statement to the court, and certainly send a statement to the justices that there's not a whole lot we can do, but we can certainly use our vote to make a statement. So I hope that happens. The other thing is that we've learned, and we have the receipts on that. The other race is the Board of Review. And I'm going to be having the candidate, Larecia Tucker, is going to be on with me in the 8 o'clock hour. And we're going to talk with her for a few minutes, and ask her to come in and join us off the campaign. We can't keep her long because, they're in the home stretch. So she's going to come on. I want you all to meet her. And I hope that you all go and vote for her. If you are a homeowner, this is very important to you. This is very critical to you. So you want to join me in that conversation with Larecia Tucker. She is running against, she's the opponent against the incumbent of Larry Rogers Jr., who's been there since 2004. So he's been there 20 years, but he's been doing significant damage to our communities by giving multi-million-dollar tax cuts to wealthy property owners who have been getting millions of dollars in tax cuts. And those tax cuts that they get, meaning they lower the valuations of their properties. By lowering the valuations of their property, they pay lower taxes. But the difference and the reduction that they get, they don't go away. That money doesn't go away. Somebody else has to pay it. So their taxes go down, our taxes go up. That has been a common practice at the Board of Review for commercial property owners. Larry Rogers Jr. has been their bidder for the last 20 years. Larry Rogers Jr. has been working in lockstep with the corrupt Barrios, who was the assessor, and we were able to get him out of there and get somebody else in there, like Fritz Kagi, who was a reformer and doing things and moving things in a better direction, in a more fair direction. And Jr. is a holdover. He's one of the last, and we need to replace him with another reformer. We have one reformer there in Samantha Steele. And if we can get one other on there, then we can reverse this tide. I mean, we can do fundamentally, significantly make a difference, meaning that we could stop millions and millions of dollars that are now flowing out of our community every year that we're subsidizing somebody else's taxes in other communities. So those are millions of dollars that are flowing out of our community that can stay in our community, that could support our businesses, support our schools, support our locations. Millions of dollars to the tune of about $500 million a year that you and I, homeowners, are paying an additional $700 to $1,000 a year for all of these tax cuts that tax appeal attorneys put before the Board of Review, contribute thousands and thousands of dollars to the campaign war chest of Larry Rogers Jr., who's spending a lot of money in this campaign, loaning himself money because he's going to get it back, because he's going to get the campaign contributions from the big donors. We need to stop that. I know that you cannot be okay knowing that you are subsidizing somebody else's taxes every year, that you are paying $700 to $1,000 a year more for somebody else's taxes when they get lower taxes on wealthy property. So when they sell that property, they're going to sell the property for the real value that it's worth. That's what Larry Rogers Jr. has been doing to us for 20 years. And I know that many people thought Larry Rogers Jr. is a good guy. He comes out into the community. He does all of these community meetings and showing us how to appeal our homeowner real estate taxes. And you may get $50, you may get a couple $100, but what you don't see is the $700 to $1,000 that you pay, because he's giving wealthy property owners these huge tax reductions, because he knows that he can spread that debt on the rest of us on the south side of Chicago and in the south suburb. That's the district that you're in. We're in District 3. Larry Rogers Jr. represents District 3. So when he votes to give wealthy property owners huge tax reductions, that money gets spread over all of our properties, and we pay the difference. We make it up. That's what's been happening. We've got the ticker tape. We've got the evidence. All the information is there. If you want to see just how it's been done, go on the Cook County Assessors and look on the dashboard there, and you can see the difference in valuations of residential property tax cuts and the difference in valuations of commercial property tax cuts. That's how you can see it. It's there in plain sight. It's very, very, very eye-opening. So we're going to be talking with Larecia Tucker about that in the 8 o'clock hour. All right. So again, welcome to the program. Thank you all for being there. And please spread this information. Reach out to your network. The people who trust you, make sure that you reach out to them. Again, there's some key races here, and these are two that I think that are key. One is a protest. The other is also a protest in terms of supporting Mary Flowers and making sure that we send a message to Chris Welch and Derek Curtis and Willie Preston in this effort to do this. Now, I had a conversation with Willie Preston. He says he's not involved, but he's involved. You can't say that you're not involved and you have both. You have both people on your palm card and you're saying pick one. That's not being involved. You are involved. See, to be neutral is to say nothing. To say nothing, do nothing. But you can't put both people out there and then say that you're not. That's called covering your butt. Covering your butt. So whoever wins, you can go to them and you can say, or when you see them, hey, I had you on my palm card. Remember that when I need your support. That's what that is. All right. So Willie Preston called me, and we had, I guess, a passionate disagreement, but it's okay. I don't dislike him. I certainly dislike what he did. I'm disappointed that he would involve himself in the old um, politics of the past. I had hoped that he would have been a reformer, but apparently not. That he fell right into it. So I'm sorry that he went down that road, but I, can't let him off the hook because he's a part of it. And certainly we won't forget. I won't let us forget. I'm going to keep notes, and we're going to have to elect different people. See, the way that I look at this is that I'm a Democrat. I am a registered Democrat. And the best that we have gotten has come largely from the Democratic representatives. Are they perfect? Far from it. Do we certainly need, they need to do better by us? Absolutely. Absolutely. But what we have got to do better by us is put ourselves in a position to be able to force them to do far better by us. But that is the party that we can mostly deal with. That's the reality. Look at the evidence. But what we've got to do in order to make them do better by us is that we've got to put ourselves in a position to be a bigger threat to them, meaning that we can determine on any of their offices. And the only way that we can do that is that we have got to be an organized block. We've got to be an organized block. We have to get out of the fractionalization. We have to get out of the individualism. And we have to get out of I got mine, you get yours attitude. We have to have the attitude that both Smith and Johnson both have to be successful in order for all of the Black community to be successful. That's the attitude that we have to have. The attitude we have to have is to making everybody successful. Now, making everybody successful does not mean that everybody is running a business or everybody's rich, but we certainly can make sure that everybody has a good job, making a good living so they can take care of themselves and provide for their family and so forth, and have a decent life and build for a retirement and all the other things that other communities are thriving. We can eradicate poverty in our communities. There should not be any poor Black communities, but we have poor Black communities in Chicago and in Cook County. That just should not be. The only way we're going to change that is that we have to change. But I'll talk more about that, right? I'll talk more about that. And that's why we meet every Thursday night to talk about and to organize. Every Thursday night by Zoom, 10 by 10 to win meets organizing to building an infrastructure so that we can get stronger and get better resources to our community at large. And I'll put it in the chat so that if you're not in the text alert, you can get in the text alert, and then you can join us at the meeting, bring some other people to the meeting, and let's grow the block, right? Growing the team, making the team stronger so that we can deal with those issues that we know that are pertinent to our communities. So those are the elections. Those are the key races. All of the races are important, but these are some really key races fundamentally. And the one that can fundamentally make the hugest economic difference, I mean, in the immediate, or certainly when I say in the immediate, if we elect Larecia Tucker at the Board of Review. She takes office in December. And the gravy train for the rich commercial property owner is over. They're digging into our pockets stops in December if we elect Larecia Tucker tomorrow. That's where we can win. That's where we can win. So, and I don't think that there has been a race. I mean, where we can do something that will fundamentally change the flow of money. I mean, when you understand your community is pouring millions of dollars out of our community, right? They're pickpocketing us. And well, I wouldn't say it's a little. $700 is a lot of money to $1,000 is a lot of money. And that $700 from each homeowner in our community adds up to millions and millions of dollars when you add it up over, thousands of homeowners in our district that we're paying out, that's going out of our community. $700 a year to $1,000 a year. That is a lot of money. We could be keeping that money in our community, supporting our own businesses in our communities, improving our own communities with those millions of dollars. So make sure that you go out and support Larecia Tucker. All right. So somebody said that the Soul Slate endorsed Larry Rogers. Let me tell you why that is happening. Most of us did not know. I'm 42 years in the real estate business. I've been working with and following and getting a better understanding of the inner workings of the assessor's office and the Board of Review. Most of us did not realize that this was going on at the Board of Review. The Board of Review is probably the most innocuous office until now that none of us really paid attention to. Most of us thought, oh, Larry Rogers Jr. on the Board of Review, nice guy. He's coming around the community, giving us information. It's unfortunate, but he's not such a nice guy to our community. He's basically sold our communities out. I know it's disappointing, but that's the reality. So the fact that he is being endorsed by the Jacksons, he's been endorsed by Brett Winkle, he's been endorsed by the Slow Slate, anybody else. Now, Brett Winkle and people like that, I don't give them a pass because they know exactly what's going on and they're complicit with it. Obviously. Most other people are probably and are. I give them a little bit of a pass I give them a lot of a pass because they just don't know that this has been going on. I didn't know it was going on until I actually studied it, got the information, and got the facts of what's really happening and how this works and where you have to go in order to get those benefits. At the Board of Review, Larry Rogers Jr. and the commissioners, Cardenas, they put in place the rule that if you have a commercial property and you want to appeal your taxes, you have to hire a tax appeal attorney. So they become the bidders for the tax appeal attorneys. The tax appeal attorney gets hired, brings the case before the Board of Review. The Board of Review votes to approve the tax cut. The tax appeal attorney gets 25% of whatever the tax cut was and most of the times they're in the multi-millions of dollars. For instance, Trump Tower hired Ed Burke. Ed Burke appeals to the Board of Review. Larry Rogers Jr. and George Cardenas approves a $29 million in 1 year tax cut for Trump Tower. 25% of that is a little more than $7 million that Ed Burke pockets for completing an application. Well, that $29 million, you and I have to pay our share of that $29 million on behalf of Trump Tower. You can't even go and stay at Trump Tower, but you have to pay their taxes. You have to subsidize their taxes. Imagine that. Trump Tower, a very wealthy property downtown. I'm not talking about the person. You and I subsidize their property taxes. So you subsidize property taxes for a property that you don't own, nor do you get any benefit from. Zero benefit. So most of us don't know this. And we're going to make it our mission that more of us know about what's going on so that we pay attention to what's going on there. Now, hopefully we're going to be successful and change that office. If we're not successful at it, we're going to have to pay the cost until Cardenas is up. And maybe by that time, more of us are aware of it and we can make that change with that seat. Then we can neutralize Larry Rogers Jr. if he, happens to get reelected. I hope that he doesn't, because he is doing serious damage to our communities. Serious damage to our communities. And I know that there are people who like Larry Rogers Jr. He's a likable guy, right? I'm just telling you about what he's doing to our communities. Every Black person is not a benefit to Black people in political office. That is the reality. That is the reality of where we are. That's the reality of some people that we have in office. So, Larecia Tucker is a Black woman. So we're replacing, hopefully, a person who is doing bad by us with somebody who would do much better by us. She has agreed not to take money from tax appeal attorneys. As a matter of fact, Larry Rogers Jr. shouldn't be voting on any cases that he is taking money from tax appeal attorneys. But he'll turn around and tell you, well, they've donated the money. It's all legal by the rules, which is not the point. Not the point. You're compromised. They're not contributing to your campaign because you are a great commissioner. They're contributing to your campaign because you vote in favor of their clients, where they make millions of dollars and they pour into your campaign so that they can keep you there to keep voting for their clients. That's what that is. So you are absolutely compromised. All right. So, all right. Brother Wall asked me, what do I think about Reverend Sampson and the Soul Slate? Well, let me just, this is what I think. First of all, I think that we have to organize ourselves together and have a large, independent Black voting bloc. And that bloc determines the slate. We pick, we slate them, we select them, and we elect them. That is what we have to do, because when we are in a position to determine who goes into an office, we are also in a position to force those people to not ignore our communities and to deliver to our communities. We are not in any way, shape, or form suggesting, and I am certainly not suggesting, that we disadvantage anybody's community, that we weaponize the office to harm other people's communities. What we're asking is that we have people who are going to these political offices. We don't elect people to go to political office just so for them to have a job, just for them to have a salary. We elect them so that they can go do a job in advocating for policies to reinvest and to bring money back to our communities. We've got to get the money. All the fancy talk. When you talk about policies, what policies are is money. It is money that is what policy, that's what represents. When a policy is passed, it is a policy that is wrapped in money. It's not some amorphous, thing that's out there. It's wrapped in money. It passes a policy that money is going to go and flow someplace. So we elect people who are supposed to go there, and they're supposed to strategize, and they're supposed to make sure that they are bringing resources back, that all of our communities can thrive. That's what they're supposed to do. That's not what is happening. Not even close to what's happening. When you look at the fact that we have 20 Black aldermen, a Black mayor, 6 Black Cook County Board commissioners, a Black Cook County Board president, and then some of the other commissioners in the water reclamation, 22 state representatives, 10 state senators, or 11, 10 state senators, 4 Black United States congresspeople, a Black lieutenant governor, a Black state's attorney, a Black attorney general, a Black chief of police, 17 Black mayors in the Southland, and on and on and on and on and on. But when you look at the condition of the Black community, in the aggregate, it's not good. Certainly not proportion to the numbers of people that we have elected in office over the past 30 years. Not even close. Not even close. So I think the idea of the soul slate, the fundamental idea of the soul slate, is a good idea. However, it should not be determined by just a few people or one person. It needs to be that we have a block, which is why we are building 10 by 10 to win, which is the block that will encompass many of our organizations. As people come in to build the team, it will encompass many of our organizations. And then, because we have a block, we will be able to elect more offices. We will be able to select people for those offices. For example, if we, just to take Chicago, we largely live in 20 of the wards in the city of Chicago. That's where we largely live, and clustered in 20 wards in the city of Chicago. On average, about 27 to 30%, some maybe a little bit more in some others, go to the polls and vote. And I'm going to show you when we look at the exit polls in upcoming. I'm going to show you the statistics of what I'm talking about. So if we were to get 10,000 people into each one of our wards, that's 200,000 people. 200,000 votes can determine an election. We're going to talk more about that. But joining me now is the candidate who is running for the commissioner of the 3rd District of the Board of Review. You heard me talking about her a little bit later or a little bit earlier, and she is joining me now, and I'll bring her into the studio. That is Larecia Tucker. Larecia Tucker, welcome to the program.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing really
Are you?
well.
All right,
Yep.
good. All right, fantastic. We're not going to keep you long because I know you're on the campaign trail, and we got to get those
It's been busy.
those last votes in, and hopefully we're going to be successful tomorrow.
Yes.
So I was talking earlier, before that you were coming on, and so I've been talking about this race because I consider this one of the most important races locally for us, and it is the one election or one race in the election that can fundamentally change economics
Everything.
in our communities.
Yes.
So stop the flow of millions of dollars flowing out of our communities. Once you get into office, that flow can start. Talk to us a little bit about what it is that you plan to do there.
Well, my first thing I plan to do is get some guidelines with the Board of Review. At this time, every analyst does the Board of Review appeals differently. So not one does it the same way. So that is one of the big problems that is what's going on. And then also the transparency, I really want to get that under control just to show what the District 3 is doing, what they're accomplishing, how we're outreaching to people, and just explaining to people how important the Board of Review is and the appeals are. And that's actually what I have learned by doing this, that a lot of people don't know about the Board of Review, don't know about appeals, and they don't know how to go about it, or they're hiring attorneys and they don't need to do that. But that is one big thing that I do want to do, is just to get everybody on one page in how to do it so that each and every household, commercial, residential, will be done the same.
Now
Yeah.
they have this rule there that I learned. I had Samantha Steele on about a week ago, and every time I talk to somebody about the Board of Review, I learn more. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's astonishing to me. I'm 42 years in the real estate business, and a lot of what I'm learning is just absolutely astonishing to me
Yeah.
about what's been going on
Mhm.
at that rather obscure office that
Mhm.
it won't be obscure anymore, right? We're going to make sure of that. So but it's been doing some very powerful things that's not been beneficial to
Right.
the South and Southland
That is true.
homeowners. So, but one of the things that I learned is, as you said, there is no standard.
Nope.
There is no standard.
It floored me too. It really did when I was discussing this with someone and they said that. And I had to ask like 3 or 4 times. There's no guidelines. I mean, even in real estate, they have guidelines in how
Right,
to do evaluations.
right.
So, and you have to take classes and everything. I had to take a class so I can do those evaluations. So, it just, yeah, it floored me too. I just could not believe that something that important does not have any written documentation in how to do something for that's supposed to help the residents, and right now it hasn't. So,
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. And somebody was asking me what I thought about, some other people who have endorsed um, uh, Larry Rogers Jr.
mhm.
But I think that, I give them a little bit of pass, except for certain people, but I give them a little bit of pass because, like them, I had no idea until I think 2 years ago, right? I've been working with Fritz Kagi and getting information and learning things from him, but it was 2 years ago that I learned what was going on
Yeah,
at the Board of Review and with Larry Rogers Jr.
and it's shocking.
Um, that he has not been a friend to
No,
our communities. He
no,
has
he
not been a
hasn't.
friend to our community.
He can say as
Um,
much as he wants that he has gone around and done these, not classes, but, just demonstrations on how to do the, border review appeals.
mhm.
But as many people as I talked to in the South and the South Side, they didn't know anything about it, so where
Right.
are you doing these at? I don't know.
Well, that's what I was. I think he would probably do, some for commercial sakes, just to say that they've done it. I think you would see him doing leading up to an election. But, I hear this commercial says he's done hundreds of meetings. I don't know, you
I
know,
have no idea where.
I don't know where those hundreds of meetings took
Neither do
place.
I.
So,
My
uh,
peers have been out, where they're at since '87. They never heard about it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, but even the fact that he goes out and he does whatever number he does, homeowners, all right, so he comes out and he does a feel good kind of thing and he tells you this is how you can go and get your taxes reduced by a couple $100. But what
mhm,
he doesn't tell you is that he's giving somebody else millions of dollars that you
tax break.
have
Yep,
to subsidize, right?
yep,
So you might get a couple $100, but then you have to pay 7 to 1,000
yep.
to subsidize
That is
a
exactly
very
right.
wealthy person's property. I mean,
Yes.
just that coming out of my mouth is just unconscionable that working class people have to subsidize
Yeah.
wealthy people,
Yep.
and you don't even get
Wealthy people.
the benefit of the use of that property.
No, not
Yeah.
at all.
So,
But you get to
well,
pay for their stuff.
and so getting you into that office is to change all of that, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So, and one of the things that you have committed to is not taking any money from tax appeal attorneys.
that is correct.
So, then in getting into that office, and we have one reformer there in Samantha Steele, and we get
Mhm.
you there. We have two. It fundamentally changes
Right.
um,
That is
uh,
correct.
the way that office is governed. There's a lot of work that has to get done there because the office is at this point is sort of run like kind of kamikaze.
Yeah, up in the air. Just throw up a
You know,
coin. That's how
just
it feels.
right, whatever they want to do. There's no absolutely no standards, no guidelines. So, uh, give us a little bit of your background of what it
Okay.
is that you're doing now,
Okay.
and what got you to this point.
Okay. Well, I am a real estate agent, licensed real estate agent, licensed insurance broker. And then I also have my CIAO, the Certified Illinois Assessing Officer, which just means that I can be an assessor anywhere in the state of Illinois. So I had to go through all those classes and tests and do my continuing ed, which I'll be starting soon, to do that. And right now I work at Rich Township Assessor's Office, and I just help the constituents with their exemptions and their appeals.
So you're doing the assessment out in Ridge Township.
Yes. So what we
Okay.
do, because we have a system, we get the comparables online.
Mhm.
And if they don't have any comparables, we do let them know. And then they bring a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis from a real estate agent, or they can bring an appraisal in, which is like, I think it's the last 6 months to a year that it has to be. And so then we just get everything and then we submit it online. So we can download everything and then submit it to the board review and then they look at it.
All right. All right. Fantastic. So, now, even with the staff there
Mhm.
at the Board of Review, you're going to have to make sure that they have the wherewithal to do the job because many of the people are hired based on, they know somebody,
Right.
but not based on whether or not they can actually do the job.
That's correct. So I would actually do an interview with everyone,
Mhm.
just to see what they know, how they've been doing it, and just asking different questions to make sure that they do understand how it should be done, and that I will let them know that there will be guidelines, and you have to follow that guidelines. And if you can't do it, I don't
Got to
know.
make a change.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to
To
make a
put it
change,
nicely,
right? Got
yeah,
to make a change. You got to put some structure in place. Well,
right.
look, I'm glad that you stopped by. I'm glad you stopped by. We're working hard, and I hope that we're successful tomorrow.
Yes.
That we could celebrate. And again, I've been just trying to advise people that um, this is the key race
Mhm.
in
It
in
is.
our local government. It is the key race in our local government. A rather unknown office, but we are
That's like
putting
to
it
say
on the
that.
map because it might be unknown, but boy, it sticks us
Yep.
if we don't do the right thing.
Yeah.
All right, folks, make sure that you go out and you support Larecia Tucker. I went and voted today, and I made sure that my wife knew what number to punch,
Yes.
which number to punch, and we went out and we cast our vote for you today.
Thank you very
And
much.
so I will be going out tonight to do some more work. By the way, I'll text you later on after the program because I want to get some material so that I can go around and
Okay.
and put material around. Okay. All
Okay.
right, folks. This is Larecia Tucker. This
Thank
is
you.
the person that we need. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Thanks a
All right.
lot.
All right. All
Bye-bye.
right. All right, folks. Make sure that you support Larecia Tucker for the Board of Review. She is going to make a world of a difference. She's very, very capable, very bright. Um, and we need to do that. She'll stop money from flowing out of our communities. Again, I can't say it enough. I can't say it enough. You know what it's like? It's like you saying to a wealthy person, go take your family to a steak dinner and I'll pay the bill. But you don't even have a choice in it. You don't even have a choice in it. Larry Rogers Jr. and George Cardenas are just deciding to give these people a break and pass the bill on to us. Yeah, Brother Rawls said she did say she is a licensed realtor. She's a licensed realtor. She's also has her CIO, which is her certification at being an assessor. So she serves as an assessor down in the Rich Township, right? So she has an understanding of how to do evaluations of properties. You know, the Board of Review has no standard. They have no standard right now. When you get a property appraised, there is a standard by which appraisers have to determine an opinion of what a property is worth. They don't have to do that, or there is no standard. In fact, there's no statewide standard in place for evaluations to determine. So they just do whatever they want to do and determine who gets it and who doesn't get it. So there is no standard by which it is governed, which is just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I hope that that we understand what's going on, and I'm doing all that we can to make sure that you understand what's going on so that you can educate people in your area, people in your community, people in your family who have properties. And later on, after we get through, as some things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some education about your property in terms of how to manage your property. In terms of how to manage your property is also how to keep control of the financing arm of your property taxes, your property insurance, and where to go to make sure that you're getting the best rates and that sort of thing, and how you can make sure that you get the best rates by keeping your property in good conditions, and that sort of thing. So your preventative maintenance, that's all of that impacts, how you can maintain better cost of your property. But the point is, there has to be standards. And Larecia Tucker is that person that we are supporting for that position, right? So we have a choice to either continue to pay higher taxes by subsidizing somebody else's taxes, or to put somebody else who will bring a different approach to it. All right, so so I want to go back to this. I want to go back to the block. We're going to be talking with. I think they may be able to come onto the program, but I want to talk about this block. And if you have not been, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to put the text alert in the text. If you are not in the if you're not in the text alert for 10 by 10 to win, I'm putting it in the chat, and then you can get into the text alert to become and participate in the meetings. The meetings we do by Zoom every Thursday night at 6:30. We have an hour and a half, and it's all organizing. It's all about organizing. We don't litigate the issues because that's not the time for it. Right now is the time for us to build so that we can have a strong body. So I was talking about how you build that block, right? So we live in largely 20 wards. We live in 20 wards, largely just in the city of Chicago. Now, this is not just for the city of Chicago, but we're using the city of Chicago for this particular example. So we live in 20 wards in the city of Chicago. Now, in elections, we probably get somewhere between 25 and 30, 32, 37% at the highest of the registered voters in the ward. And we have, on average, somewhere between 25 and 30,000 registered voters in those wards. So imagine if we had 10,000 people, 10,000 voters from each one of those wards where we live, in those 20 wards that were in the block of 10 by 10 to win. That's 200,000 people. How do you get to 200,000 people? 10 people. Each one of us knows 10 people that trust our voice and trust our messages, that will come and be a part of that. You get 10, the next person gets 10. We do it a few times. We could reach 1 million. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. 1,000 times 10 is 10,000. 10,000 times is 100,000. Do it one more time. 100,000 times 10 is 1 million people. Just 5 times over. 5 times over, we can reach that number. But let's just talk about 20% of that at 200 people. I'm sorry, 200,000 people, 10,000 in each ward. 10,000 people in each ward. We're all working and voting as a union, right? As a united front. We can determine the offices of 20 offices at the city council. We can determine the state representative. We can determine the state senator. We can determine the mayor. With just 200,000 people voting together, we have that kind of significance. One of the things that we've never done is institutionalize being organized. We've had moments where we have voted together, but that's not organized. That's where we just supported a candidate. I'm talking about something very different, that we organize ourselves together. We determine, we select from our own candidates within our block that we could send to the respective offices that we essentially, in effect, have control over. Why? Because they know that we put them there, and if they are not producing, then we have to remove them. But if we have the ability to elect a slate of people, that's a real caucus. We elect a slate of people, of 20 people. We elect 20 people, and we're just talking about one office, mayor, or city council. We elect 20 people in the city council. We get to influence public policy that comes out of city council because they want to get reelected. They can't get reelected without the support of the bloc. This is why unions are so strong. This is why politicians absolutely respond to unions, because they know that unions have strength. We need to build our own voting union, our independent block of a voting union. That's what 10 by 10 to win is all about, is building an independent black voting block that we will be able to determine elections, and we can determine public policy that responds to the needs and to the demands of our communities. The reason why our communities are in the condition is because we don't have any power. We don't have any power. Let me say it again. We do not have any power. Now we have access to power, but we don't have any power. And the only reason that we don't have any power is because we're just not organized. We do a whole lot of saying that we need to come together, but we haven't organized that infrastructure. And so what we're doing is we're organizing the infrastructure. So join us on Thursday night. Text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. You'll get a message welcoming you into the text alert. I send them out every Thursday morning for the meeting Thursday evening. Come yourself and share the information and bring others. If we can get this block to just the basis of 10,000 people in each one of the wards where we live, that will bring national implications. So let me give you an example of why it's important for us to unionize ourselves together. And it simply means to unite. You all remember the United Auto Workers. The United Auto Workers is made up of active members of, I may have it backwards, but I have to look it up, of active members of 400 and some odd thousand active members throughout the country. And I think there's 500 and some odd thousand retired. Those numbers might be flipped. But the point is about 900,000 of them in the UAW. UAW went on strike because the auto dealers cut a deal with them back in 2013 and said, in order for us to survive, in order for us to be able to keep going, we have to ask the employees to forego raises and to, in effect, lend us the money that we would be giving you raises so that we can keep the company strong. And so the workers agreed. They cut the deal. They agreed. Well, the auto industry has done tremendous. They've made trillions of dollars in record profits. And now the auto workers are saying, okay, give us what we gave you back in 2013. That's all they were asking, is to give us what we were supposed to get back in 2013. And the auto dealer said, we can't do it. Can't afford to do it, while they're making record profits. The United Auto Workers negotiated it, and the dealer said, no, we can't do it. Or the manufacturers, no, we can't do it. In effect, they were saying, no, we're not going to do it. Well, what they did was they didn't go on a nationwide strike. They went on a strike. And they said, if we have to expand it, we'll expand it. The United Auto Workers were so strong and are so strong that they influence a lot of votes, and they got a president of the United States to stand on the picket line that has never happened before. Now, keep in mind that there are 900,000, there's 400 and some odd thousand active, 500 and some odd thousand retired throughout the entire country. They brought the manufacturers to the table and forced them to do what they say that they couldn't do or they wouldn't do. And they got a president to come and stand on the picket lines with them. Never happened before. Now let's bring this. There's a total of about 900,000 of them. We have, as Black people, we have right now in the city of Chicago, 663,000 registered Black voters right now to date in the city of Chicago. We have the largest voting or registered voters of any ethnic group in Chicago. The largest, even though we've lost population. The largest number of registered voters of any other ethnic group in Chicago. If we were to take just a portion of that and put it together and function as a union, as a block, we could transform politics and transform our communities. So the real question and the real challenge is not on the people who are in office, because we already know what they're going to do, and they're going to continue to do it until we do differently. So the real challenge and the real burden is on us. It's our responsibility to change our approach, to change our approach to our conditions. We have to get out of, I get mine, you get yours. We have to get out of, I don't do that over there, and they do their thing over there, and I'm going to do my thing over there. And that works very good for the people who are in power, because while you're doing your thing over there and we're doing our thing over there, they're just taking all of the resources and doing whatever they want to do for their agenda, and our communities struggle. And we sit around and we wonder why. We just have to fundamentally decide to change the way that we have been approaching this. And I guarantee you that if we do it, we will demonstrate to ourselves, what real power is. We don't have power because we're disorganized. Black people are disorganized everywhere we are. We are disorganized. I know that has some people scratching your head. But yeah, scratch your head, but think about it. Where are we organized? We are not. Because if we were, we would be able to determine, demand better and differently if we were organized. But we're not. All right, listen. I want to talk more about that on Thursday. I hope that I see some of you on Thursday. If you have not been in our meetings, and encourage other people to come to the meetings on Thursday night so that we can grow this and we can do this, because it is up to us. It really is up to us if we're going to liberate our communities or if we're going to stay the way that we are, and we're going to approach things on an individual basis. Well, I got mine, let them get theirs. That's not a recipe for a successful people. It's just not. And it proves itself day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out. All right. So I want to talk about this thing that's going on in Flossmoor. Some of you may know Flossmoor community. We all know it to be, where people go and they want to live in that community because it has a great school district, and it's a fairly great, just a great community. About 65% Black in Flossmoor now. This town of about a little under 10,000 people. 65% Black, about 7% other, and another, I guess 25%, somewhere around there, white. All of the administration is white. The mayor, the village manager, the assistant village manager is white. Most of the interior staff are white. Population, 65% is Black. They just hired their first Black chief of police in March of 2023. The village manager is leading an effort to fire the chief of police. Someone got in contact with Craig Wemberly of COLE. COLE is the Coalition of African American Leaders. He's also part of 10 by 10 to Win. And somebody got a hold of Craig. Craig got a hold of me and said that we need to look into this. And we started looking into it. We started getting information. We started doing our own investigation, trying to understand, well, what's going on, why they're trying to fire the first Black chief that has only been there less than a year. Well, the bottom line is they have some ridiculous allegations that don't amount to justifying terminating someone. The community is fairly happy with him. The people in government is fairly happy with him. And the community is raising a lot of questions to the administration. Right now, there's a demonstration going on. There's a board meeting going on, and we sent out a presser. So the press is out there. The media is out there looking into this, asking questions, and we're going to keep that pressure on them. And I'm supposed to have the chief, if he's able to come on, with his counsel, or certainly one of his legal counsel is supposed to come on, hopefully before the end of the show. And well, his attorney is just is texting me now. All right, so we're going to try to see if we can get them on. But at any rate, so the thing is that there's a lot of questions being raised about this. The community is all upset about this, and that's good. So we got involved because somebody contacted us or contacted Craig, and Craig contacted me, and we started looking into this, right? So we started looking into it to see what's going on. and reached out to the chief, had a conversation with the chief, and right now there is a council meeting going on, and they're really trying to fish and find out which way they want to go. But they didn't realize that they were going to have as much of the resistance that is being put up, asking questions of the administration as to why this is going on and why this is happening, only to find out that it's unwarranted, it's unjustified. And so, but we are going to continue to support the chief. We're going to support this effort. He has counsel who's representing him, and they file a lawsuit. They're really not looking to bring any, harm to the citizens or the taxpayer of Flossmoor, but we want for the administration to do the right thing. And the right thing would be is to give a public apology to the chief, reinstate the chief fully, reinstate the chief. And, we believe that the village manager, it's time for the village manager to go, because, there are several people who said that the village manager is a challenge. All right. So joining me now is currently the chief of police of Flossmoor, who is on a leave right now, but he is here joining me now. There's a demonstration that is going on now, and he is on leave. He is joining me now, as well as one of his attorneys is just joining me. Bob Fioretti is the one of the attorneys for Chief Jones, and they both join me now. Welcome to the program, Bob and Chief Jones. Can you hear me, Bob? Bob, can you hear me? Bob, can you hear me? I don't think. Chief Jones, can you hear me? Your volume is a little low. If you can turn your volume up, can you do that?
Okay, I've increased my volume. Can you hear me, sir?
I can barely hear you. I can barely hear you. But all right. Bob, are you there? Can you hear me, Bob? I don't think that Bob can hear me. We can hear Bob, but he can't hear us. Bob, can you hear me? Let me see if I can bring Bob. Bob, I'm trying to get you into the studio. Let me see if I can get him in. All right, Bob, are you there? Can you hear me? Bob has got to unmute himself.
Oh,
Can you hear me, Bob?
I can hear you now.
All right. Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right. So we have Chief Jarrell Jones, who is the chief of police of Flossmoor, who is on leave. He's still employed there. It depends on what day it is. So Bob, what I want to do is give us some background on where we are with the situation with Chief Jones. And right now, there's a city council meeting that's going on. There's supposed to be a resolution that the language of the resolution says consideration. I want to bring it up. That is a resolution to consider terminating his employment. What is that all about?
I think you just said it. We really don't know where it stands. We did file a lawsuit, essentially saying that he has been terminated, and he has been. They are trying to backtrack, it would appear, the city council at this point, to say he hasn't, but they're going to be taking formal action tonight on him. It's our contention from day one that the chief has been put in an unfair position. by the village manager primarily, and she has made life very difficult for him. And we are contending it is because he is African American in a town that is 60+% African American. The leadership of the city is white, and we have alleged various factors through their memos and memorandums that it has been unfair, that he's been discriminated against, he's been put into a corner, and if he doesn't follow the rules, uh, the way they want it, and they're not police. Let's not forget he's had almost 20 years of police background. He has the integrity to lead this department. He's got the knowledge, and when I say knowledge to lead a police department, the police department in a current way, by bringing technology, the use of technology into this department. He has built relationships all around, not just in his department and other departments in the city, but with the citizens and surrounding communities, surrounding suburbs. They all feel the same. So he is by far one of the top choice to lead I'll say a suburban community for policing. And Mark, as you know, I was alderman. I dealt with in the city of Chicago. I've dealt with a lot of police commanders. I've dealt with a lot of police officers and high command. And he would fit in. He could lead a large police force. Because he is that type of a person.
Well, is this more because in all of my, I guess you would call it in my query or investigation of it, the more conversations that I had, the first conversation that I had with Chief Jones, and then I had conversations with others, and in terms of the information, but everybody else that I've had conversation with, they largely support the chief. I spoke to nobody who said, even residents who said that they felt less safe or they felt that the policing was bad in the village. And it just, it really reeks that there's some undercurrent motive to terminate the chief. Now, I'm sure they did not expect to get the kind of attention that they're getting, which is why I think they're doing a lot of the shifting. But I know that there may be a racial component, but I think it's more of an insidious racial component that is involved here. But I think this, it sounds to me as though, as you said earlier, that they're more upset that he's not doing things the way they want him to do, and yet they're not police. He's a police officer. If I was a mayor, I'm hiring a police officer to run a police department. I'm not a police officer, so I have to give the police officer the opportunity to do that.
Well, I have to agree with you. And a lot of it started back in October. He met with the mayor at that point, the mayor to express concerns about the village manager. And the mayor must have gone right to, if we look at what was the scenario and the facts, ever since that point, his life has become unbearable in terms of working and having employment and really protecting the citizens of Flossmoor here.
Well, and at this point, there's no chief of police.
And that is correct. And you've got a department that becomes rudderless, sometimes just like the city is too. This is when you sometimes people, they hear about a mayor and they, of course, look to the city of Chicago. Chicago should have a weak mayor, strong council, which is not true, but the mayor takes overall in terms of what's happening. And so in these suburbs, people view it the same way, but it's the village manager who generally runs the suburb and all the day-to-day activities. And that's what happened here. And as you say, there is a racial component. We definitely allege that. We go beyond that at this point. We've received an immediate. We asked for reinstatement of the chief, which they've denied so far. Who knows what may happen at this meeting tonight? However, they also came back with a motion to dismiss. They came after the attorneys who are representing him, that we didn't follow the rules. They've apparently, I've not seen them. I've not read the motion, but I have been informed that they're alleging to us that we went beyond the rules. We are all within the rules at this point. I am worried about the safety of the citizens, just like the chief is at this point, and the safety of everyone in that suburb. Given the respect that the chief has by his fellow officers in that suburb and in the surrounding suburbs. I've talked to some other people today who are high-end former police chiefs and or a police chief, and he said, there's a lot of respect for him out there. So we shall see.
When they say that you are going outside of the rules, what do they mean that you're going outside of the rules?
They said we didn't, as we filed. They have filed a motion to dismiss the complaint, and they said in that motion, from what I understand, and again, I haven't seen the full extent of it, that we allege certain racial animus. And they are threatening, due to the press conference that I and the other attorney had, Cass Casper, threatening a defamation lawsuit against us for representing our client in a full and exact manner.
Okay, that sounds pretty rich. Defamation against wait, is that defamation against the village or
no, against us, against the attorneys who are representing them? So you can tell where this is. You can tell what kind of a matter or what's happening in this suburb. Instead of addressing the issue head on, instead of talking to us about the status of the chief, instead of addressing the issues that are in our complaint, they decide, apparently according to the motion, and again, I haven't seen it, that they attack the attorneys.
Wow. Okay. Let me just ask a couple of questions of the chief. Chief Jones, all right, sorry about that. We had a little bit of a technical issue there. All right, Chief Jones, we're back here. So, first of all, how you feeling?
Mr. Wallace, I'm keeping my head up and doing my very best to remain encouraged, for definitely myself and for my family at this point in time.
All right, and listen, if they're successful, and if your attorneys are successful, do you want to go back to work in Flossmoor? Did you enjoy the job, and do you want to go back to the job?
Mr. Wallace, I have nearly 20 years in law enforcement, and I've been serving as a police chief for the last few years between serving in Flossmoor most recently, and prior to that being in the city of Macomb as first African American police chief. I'm a third generation law enforcement professional, and I take this profession very seriously. I'm very passionate about serving in the capacity as a law enforcement officer. And again, it runs 3 generations deep in my family. And I made a promise to my grandfather when I went off to college that I will follow in his footsteps. And I have kept that promise. That has been my heart the entire time. And as the police chief in Flossmoor, my heart is with the residents, with the men and women and the children who reside in our village. And I do want my job. I want to serve as the police chief. I uprooted my entire family to be here. I was in good standing in Macomb. I didn't have any issues, whereas my job was at risk. The mayor in Macomb had another term coming up, made it clear that he wanted me to stay and continue to serve as his police chief, and the city administrator was very clear about that as well. I had their absolute full support. I came to Flossmoor for an opportunity to move closer to home, to be closer to family, and for my wife and our children to be closer to family as well. And this was a phenomenal opportunity to be able to do that. I grew up approximately 25 minutes from Flossmoor in the city south side of Chicago. So after 20 years living in Macomb, it was time to come home. And although I didn't grow up in Flossmoor, this was close to home. This was very close. And I knew, and I still have it in my heart, that I am more than capable of serving as the police chief in Flossmoor and providing a professional and unbiased police service that the residents, that the men and women of the department deserve.
Well, well, right now there's a demonstration, there's an outpouring of support going on right now in Flossmoor. I've been contacted by several people in the community there about the demonstration that's going on there, as well as there is media there. I know that there is media from ABC, CBS, and Fox there, and a couple of others. So I know that it's being covered. Bob, has there been a case where you have this kind of situation where the administration has retracted what they've done and said, hey, maybe we went overboard here, we've overstepped? If they were to come around and say that, right, if they were to acknowledge that this was maybe not the right thing to do, or not the right thing to do, and they want to fully reinstate him, wouldn't there have to be some change in personnel in order for that to happen?
Well, I think you may have summed up several things that we have talked about, and the letter that we sent to the village asking for full reinstatement, a letter, public apology, a letter that he did nothing wrong, and finally to take away the direct contact with the village manager. All that, and I really think the village and the village administration has to look itself in the mirror on what they're doing here, and what their impact is on their own citizens. To see these numbers that have come out for him, to hear from other people uh, regarding what's happening here. Uh, they all feel the pressure. When I say they feel the pressure, residents feel the pressure on what's going on. And so it is time for a change in the upper administration and how they deal with the chief in the future.
Well, certainly the administration needs to be more reflective of the community. The community is about 65% black. It's about 28% white, and I think 7 or 8% others. There's, there. So certainly the administration needs to be more reflective of, of the community. And I think that Um, this is where you see these kinds of cultural clashes because you don't have an administration that reflects the makeup of its citizens, that you could have that kind of cohesiveness and that kind of interactions within the administration, that when these kinds of that could avoid these types of situations if you have a much more diverse administration.
Well, obviously I believe that's helpful, but you have to have an inclusive attitude. You have to have. You don't just need diversity. You need to have the mentality that everyone's respected, that we include them in decisions, we listen to what they have to say, and administrations have been able to overcome other administrations throughout these suburbs have been able to overcome some of these, I'll call them obstacles. But you need the right mentality here. As simple as that, Mark.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. I really hope, because Flossmoor is a beautiful community. It really is
Absolutely.
a beautiful community. I've done business in Flossmoor. I know people in Flossmoor there. I think it's a wonderful community. And I think that this is a stain that certainly needs to be corrected. The people in Flossmoor, they love being there in Flossmoor. And certainly we are not in any way, shape, or form trying to suggest that Flossmoor is, is as bad. I mean, there is a culture there that needs to be addressed. That certainly needs to be addressed, and I think it can be it can be addressed and it can be corrected. And as you say, if they are willing to acknowledge that we have a problem here, let's address it. We want for our village, our city, to have the reputation that it's always had, that people see us in light and don't want this to define who we are. But I think that in all of this, there is one person in all of this that is the common denominator of the dissension, and not just from black people, but from white people, that the village manager, and maybe perhaps she's been there too long. She's been there 20 years. It's probably time for them to have go into a different direction.
And you may have said something, people become too set in their ways. I talk to people a couple of times a week from Flossmoor, who live in Flossmoor, and they enjoy that community. Uh, they see the potential or further potential of the village, and they do want to remain there. As simple as that. And but they see the problems that the current administration, or when I say administration, I'm not talking just of the few elected leadership, but those who are holding positions there.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank both of you all for coming on and sharing some of this with. We're going to certainly keep posted on this. I want to pay attention to, when we go off the air, I want to pay attention and see what's going on there at the village. Chief Jones, we're going to continue to support you, and hopefully that the village mayor will do the right thing there. And I think that she certainly has an opportunity to start to rebuild some confidence with the community. But that's what a mayor is supposed to do, is to show leadership, and certainly hope that they do. I want to thank both of you for being here. Bob Fioretti, who is one of the attorneys representing Chief Gerald Jones. Chief Gerald Jones is, for all intents and purposes, the chief of police of Flossmoor. Thank you all both for
Thank you.
being with us tonight. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me for this week, on this week's edition of the People Show. Thank you all for tuning in to the program. Hey, don't forget, text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385 and join us on Thursday night for the 10 by 10 to win meeting, as we talk about organizing and building our voting block. But listen, most of all, you got to go out and vote tomorrow. You got to go out and vote tomorrow. There are two key races that I want you to, there's a protest vote that I want you to vote on that decision that they did with the at the Illinois State Supreme Court. And certainly we have got to make a change at the Board of Review. All right, look, that's going to do it for me for this week. We'll be right back here next week with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas for the Monday night edition of the People Show. Thank you all so much. See you next week.